Since you clicked on this video, you might be dreaming of or thinking of buying a new horse. It's so hard finding the right horse. You don't want to lose a lot of money. I want to share some hard-earned lessons, and I hope this will help you to avoid costly mistakes. I've been in the game for over 30 years. Owning and training horses, I've seen it all. Currently, I've got about 30 horses in my stable. Of those, 15 are mine. Buying them is a breeze compared to selling them. Now, the biggest issue and the mistake that is the trickiest to wrap your head around is the last one. It's the one that it's tough to comprehend and even harder to tackle. Directly uncomfortable, and that's not just for the wallet. So stick around till the end if you don't miss out on that nugget of wisdom. Sure, we all know about the vet checks, checking the horse's track record, age, how it trail rides, and if it loads up in the trailer. But in this video, I'm diving into the not so easy to check stuff. First up, buying based on emotion. It's easy to get swept away by the horse's looks or charm. Have you ever noticed that people tend to buy a horse that looks similar in color and markings to a horse they have previously owned and been really close attached to? Many years ago, I had a red horse with white markings for 14 years. She was both lovely and complicated, and she has a huge chunk of my heart. I figured the next should be less complicated though. So I bought a bay gelding as my next horse, and after him I bought a beautiful look-alike bay mare. I was not supposed to have a red horse again, and the bay mare, she won the Prix St. George with me, and such a lovely horse. And then what happened? Was there a subconscious need to master a red horse? 'Cause now my horse is, red. But let's get real here. You gotta make a smart decision based on what you need, not what you see. But it's not about what you need, it's about the horse you're dreaming of, right? Very annoying when people tell you what you need when you're looking for what you want, your dream horse. You don't want an advice, you want support, right? And who doesn't have a friend who always ends up with the grey mare? The thing is, dream horses are often both expensive, overly spirited, and they tend to have very high upkeep costs. How quickly does a dream horse crash into reality? That hit can come fast and hard. I know the feeling. So big mistake number one is letting your heart rule your head when you're looking to make a big purchase like a horse. Next, if the seller ain't upfront about the horse's past, gives you wishy-washy info, or just seems shady, trust your gut. You see a journal that doesn't match the story, or there is something really concerning about the x-rays, but you choose to overlook it because the horse is doing fine right now, or the horse is shod with strange shoes. It's built up here and there. Yeah, that doesn't happen for no reason. Or what about the horse that's going around with his mouth gaping open? You might not feel it when you're riding, but it's actually gaping. That's when things starts to seem fishy. And what about when you start test riding a horse and it's doing really well, but you notice there is suspiciously little muscle mass over its back? So you ask, why does it have so little muscle over its back? They can tell you this healthy horse has a calcification in the back. But that doesn't matter, they say. Unfortunately, all experience suggests that calcification do have an impact. So these are typical red flags. It's fun to ride the horse right now, it feels good, but the back, and it's going around with its mouth open, or it has a lot of extra shoe adjustments. There is something that doesn't add up with the verbal history and the records. It's red flags all over. The worst thing is the chemistry. When they talk about, no, we're selling the horse because we have some bad chemistry. When somebody mentions bad chemistry, it often involves broken ribs and other things. Bad chemistry is not just about chemistry. It usually involves scary experiences for either the horse, the rider, or both. If they can't tell you what those scary experiences are, then as the buyer, you won't be prepared for them when they happen. So when they talk about bad chemistry, that's a red flag right there, smack in the middle of the room. What about the competition horse that's being sold because the rider no longer enjoys competing? What does that entail? It is because the horse doesn't load onto the trailer anymore. And why doesn't it load onto the trailer? Is there a lack of good leadership in the horse's daily life, or does it not compete because the rider has become nervous, causing the horse to become nervous and take control at competitions, so we no longer compete? But it's a relatively good horse that trains well at home. That's also a red flag. What causes someone who once bought a competition horse to ride in competitions and dreamed of it to stop competing? Why is that? The story that emerges should be credible. If not, another red flag. If something feels off, walk away. Your instincts are there for a reason. This takes you to big mistake number 2, ignoring red flags. Do not ignore them. Take a good hard look at your own skills. What kind of horse and situations can you realistically handle? If the seller seems all fancy and experienced but can't figure out how to deal with the horse because it's a total handful in competitions, handling, riding, loading, or just staying injury-free, why do you think you're gonna be the one to crack the code? Is that for real? Or are you just blowing your cash on a project that might not even pan out? Some people are naturally talented and handle most things very well, not afraid of anything, so they can manage most horses, or at least to where they are calm and easy to handle, good to ride out on trails and jump some obstacles and such. But to bring out the horse's full potentials, there might be a need for some help and instruction. If you feel you have the opportunity to get that help, do you have trainers that you trust who can help you to reach your goals? If I buy a horse like that, I do have the means to keep it in training year-round, and I do have the money to cover various therapists, shoeing, equipment, and all the training it needs? Or do I need a horse that doesn't require the same level of activity, but is still enjoyable to work with, whether it's trail riding or show jumping? It's two very different horses, each requiring something different. So you need to know yourself, what you want to spend most of the time doing, and which horse is best suited for that purpose, so that you and the horse can have a great everyday life. For those of you over 40, being over 40 means that when you fall off, you hit harder, and you might have less desire for it, unfortunately. And that's my experience, as I am over 40. You're probably just as skilled at riding as when you were 25, but you might be a little stiffer in the body, meaning that you're a little slower in the body as well. At least it may be. And then you have to take that into account, because it's not as fun to ride very spunky horses, especially ones that likes to buck. Another thing is ambitions. Ambitions are larger when you're 25, with your whole life ahead of you, maybe no kids and a lot of time to train and train and train. You might have higher ambitions and spend more time training than when you're a bit older. But horse girls are always horse girls, so they still want to ride. But you have to have a realistic assessment for what kind of horse you need when you're an adult. Some years ago, I bought a horse from a lady, and I emphasized that it had to be a kind horse that doesn't buck or rear, because I wanted it to be safe for me and my daughter to ride. She assured me that the horse was very steady. Bought the horse, took it home, and it started behaving quite badly. It was fine on long reins during walks, but as soon as it had to do something, it would suddenly buck or rear. I called the seller and told her about the horse, that the horse had started to buck, and I asked if she could recognize the behavior and what could be causing it. She replied, "Oh, it started doing that again. It used to do that all the time, but never on walks." That's when I felt deceived, because I had emphasized that the most important thing for me was not to have a talented horse, but have a safe one that also my daughter could safely ride. I felt pretty foolish, because I should have used my resources and done more research beforehand to learn more about the horse's history before buying it. Well, then I would not have bought it. Now the horse has a very nice home with a young rider who enjoys it and all the spookiness and whatever. I bought another horse, this time from a very kind and honest seller who knew and shared the whole history of her horse. And I have the sweetest horse in the world. Both me and my daughter enjoys this horse. Sometimes things go south. And do you have a backup if things go south? Do you have anyone to support you? And how much time can you dedicate to your new four-legged buddy every day? Think about it, folks. Because the last thing you want is to be in it over your head. This takes us to big mistake number 3. You don't have a realistic assessment of your own skills and resources. So there you have it. Learn from experience and avoid these common mistakes when you're on the hunt for your next equine pal. Remember, it's not just about what you know about horses or how good you are at riding. It's a bit about how you are as a person. Try talking to someone you trust, like a friend or maybe your trainer. Someone you can speak openly with, so you can discuss together what you're good at, what you excel in, and where you may need a little help. Alternatively, make a list of your strengths, challenges, resources like your network and trainer, and most importantly, your goals and intentions with the horses. Then you can look at the facts and figure out what kind of horse makes sense for you to get and which horse will bring you the most joy. Having a horse can be challenging enough on its own. You don't need a horse that adds to those challenges. It's hard to evaluate yourself honestly, without either undervaluing or overvaluing yourself. And it can be tough to live up to your own expectations. That's why it's great to have someone to discuss with as you go through the process. One last tip. Don't bring the horse trailer when you go to see the horse, because then it's so much easier for you to get a little less critical because you just really want to bring the horse home. That's one of my big mistakes. I've done it way too many times.